Hey guys, and welcome to episode 42 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So guys, welcome to episode 42 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Today we have Anne Margolis back on the show for episode number 2 of her. Now, you might remember Anne from the first episode talking all about natural childbirth. You can find Anne at www.homesweethomebirth.com. If you go /free, she's got a free guide there. You can give you away, I think it's like 100 of the best tips for expectant mothers or mothers to be, etc., etc. I should say. So last time we talked all about how birth doesn't have to be such a traumatic experience, and it can be free of medication. It can be something that is not seen as such a painful process. It hasn't got to be high on drugs, etc. And we talked a lot about how we can make it a much more pleasant experience for a mother. Well, today's episode, we're going to be talking all about birth trauma and going into that. Now, if you don't know what birth trauma is, then we have to wait about 2 seconds, you can find out. No, birth trauma is something that lots of women go through, a huge amount. Actually, when I was doing the stats, I came out a stat on the actual show, as many as 200,000 women every year may feel traumatised by childbirth. So this is something that goes on and is very, very evident when it comes to birth. So we need something that needs to be taken seriously. It's something that needs to be addressed and something that needs to be spoken about. I know I had quite a few messages through an email. I spoke to a few people and said how much they appreciate the first interview, so this one's going to be great. And we also go into Breathwork, or Breathwork I should say, which is great. So without further ado, here is Anne. Here's the second episode, guys, and as always, I'll catch you on the other side. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 42 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Today's episode is number 2 with Anne Margolis, and we'll be talking about the different issues regarding childbirth. So we had Anne on not so long ago, a few weeks ago, and we were talking all about obviously the traumatic experience that women go through with childbirth, her experience, etc. And now we're going to just touch a little bit into birth trauma and then Anne's journey. So welcome, Anne. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. As I'm just talking a little bit offline, just saying about how it's just starting to get cold here, and I'm guessing it is over there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we actually had a really good response at the last interview, Anne. I actually got one of the ladies who does, she's Catherine Ferrant, she does osso bone broth. I had quite a few different responses, but I just remember because Catherine sent me a message on Saturday saying, just listen to your interview with Anne, and it hit so many, hit home for her really. So it's great to get you back on the show.
That's great. Yeah, I got some good response on my end. People were messaging me. Yeah, so it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. So today we're going to, first of all, want to touch on birth trauma. Now, so just some stats for people out there, and people who don't, we'll go into what birth trauma is in different circumstances, etc. But just for some stats for people out there, in the UK alone, 10,000 women a year develop post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition that includes birth trauma, and as many as 200,000 women feel traumatised by childbirth, and they develop the symptoms of PTSD. So just for people out there, Anne, what is birth trauma?
That's incredible, the statistics, especially given how much midwifery is, much more midwifery, the practice of midwifery is so more prevalent in the UK versus the United States, which we have much higher rates of birth trauma. So birth trauma is really, as you say, it's post-traumatic stress disorder. Trauma is trauma. It's actually a normal reaction It's not a sign of weakness or someone's inability to cope with something. It's actually a normal reaction to a real or perceived sort of traumatic, scary or bad experience. So when witnessing or experience something that is either perceived life-threatening or dangerous to mom or baby, and there are it's associated in especially around obstetrics, when there is loss of control, loss of dignity, loss of privacy, sort of a hostility or difficult attitudes of the staff, or feeling like not being heard, things being done without consent. And there's a grassroots organization called Improving Birth that coined the term obstetric violence as sort of coercive, disrespectful care. And the World Health Organization has called for increased scrutiny of disrespectful childbirth practices around the time of birth and in labor and delivery units all around the world. And it is actually written that it must be taken as seriously as rape. Many feel, that this kind of trauma as rape, because they're vulnerable. The interventions are invasive into their, within their, sexual, it involves their sexual anatomy, right? So it's very intimate. And there's this, already in childbirth, there's this loss of control and a sense of vulnerability. So when a woman hears, if you don't do this, baby could die or baby could be damaged. And so women feel coerced into doing unwanted procedures to themselves, or their babies. And what happens is it's pretty much a similar symptom picture as, PTSD was kind of coined after the veterans got back from the Vietnam War. They were having a series of symptoms, and so it's a normal reaction. Symptoms can be sort of intense fear, a sense of helplessness, a sense of kind of horror, persistent re-experiencing of the event. So like intrusive memories, flashbacks, disturbing dreams that can really, cause a woman to, let's say, wake up or feel when these thoughts come in, intrusive thoughts come in, like distressed, panicked, and, anxious. And even when exposed to like reminders or triggers. So women who have PTSD or birth trauma, they want to like avoid anything that reminds them of the birth and talk. Like I remember after my first birth, which I now know I had birth trauma, I couldn't even talk about it, and everyone kind of undermines it by saying, but you had a healthy baby, right? You had a breathing baby with a heartbeat who's pink, but it's so much more than that. And that just undermines and invalidates what's going on. Like, I didn't want to talk about it. It was almost hard for me to see pregnant women and even think about birth. And I was working on the unit, right, where I gave birth. So, some women, just like all medical procedures then become a trigger. It's very, the body, mind, soul, very complicated and things can trigger the symptoms. And it could be like someone that looks like, right, the nurse or the doctor that was there. Some women feel like they need to talk about it over and over again, it could interfere with sleep. It can cause irritability and, there's this sort of hypervigilance, like kind of like being on guard, like thinking that there's almost a danger around every corner. And, they're just like wound up and easily startled. And this is really the body's way of making sense of a scary experience. So, for example, in the wild, all animals, there's a lot of trauma research now, and we look at animals. And because animals don't carry baggage, they don't carry trauma. They are activating their being, and they are in the parasympathetic nervous system. They are in a state of calm, and that's where the body functions most optimally, right? But let's say a deer is in the wild and sees a tiger, right? So we have the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight response, like, oh my God, the deer, whatever the deer is sensing, the deer could die, be eaten alive at any moment. So the deer, the adrenaline, the epinephrine, all the stress hormones are activated too, so the deer can run for its life. If the deer reaches safety, like all animals, they shake it off. It's a somatic response. The body needs to get rid of the trauma energy, and then they resume being in the state of, relaxation, and they don't carry around this trauma. Human beings tend to, when, it could be birth, it could be a rape, it could be abuse, it could be even like being in a car accident, right? Yeah. We hold our breath, and the energy of the trauma gets suppressed and is stored in the body. There's a lot of, really amazing research about this, and I can talk about like how to heal from it. But women are not alone. A third of women describe their birth as traumatic, have some sort of birth trauma. And what's concerning me is that a lot of the medical professionals, in addition to people, right? People don't really acknowledge this. They're so focused on the physical, not the psychological reaction of birth, right? So women might go to get help because they're not feeling right, and they're falsely diagnosed as having depression or anxiety, and put on drugs to suppress what they're feeling, So that's a concern that I have. Yeah. So that's why I want to raise awareness, and that's what, I'm just so I'm so passionate about preventing this. That's just so that it doesn't happen at all. But babies feel birth trauma just as mothers feel birth trauma. So, right now I'm just talking about the mother, but babies have a whole different experience as well. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, no, I want to go into that next, actually, how baby does. But just as you're saying there, it's a few different topics you've touched on there. First of all, about the treatment that people get in hospitals. It's almost, I can see what you mean, like if the nurses or doctors, almost like arrogance, like they tell people what to do, and it can cause people to feel like, yeah, it's not a safe place. And I get what you mean. I get what you're saying there. So I can understand where you're coming from in terms of watching that situation play out in my head. You get it, like you even see it in movies where like the doctors or the staff are basically having a go at the woman giving birth because she's not doing it to their sort of standards. But that's not really a loving way to bring a person to the world.
No, and it's not like, doctors and nurses mean well for the vast majority. They really mean well. It's just, there's a fear of malpractice, fear of something going wrong, and it kind of overrides the ethical values of are we still connected?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like I was saying in my previous interview with you, like just me personally, I was feared. And, the doctor came in and stuck his hand up me and examined me without my consent every hour. And then, because I wasn't making progress, and then they throw, but, you don't want anything to happen to the baby, no, I don't want anything to happen to the baby, so I was kind of, I didn't want to, you don't want to have a cesarean. So I was kind of feared into doing a lot of, the Pitocin, which led to the epidural. And then, her heart rate dropped, and then there was a real emergency. So then I really thought she was, dead, when I was waiting in the operating room for an hour, and nobody was helping me to get they were waiting for the assistant surgeon. So, there's a lot of different, there's a lot of fear in the hospital, and women sometimes are feared into doing things against their will when there's actually nothing wrong. If there's something wrong, then that's a different story. And yes, that sometimes it's not in our control. For example, if the baby's shoulders get stuck, or, a mom has, there is a complication that needs crisis intervention. But the vast majority of births are, when they're healthy, they go well. So we don't need to treat them as a crisis and do things against the mother's will. Right. And it can just, like a mother and baby can be treated with compassion and support and intimacy and validation, right, around this process of having a baby. Yeah. There's ways to prevent it, just basic, giving her when there's not an emergency, and most of the time there's not, when you leave birth alone and let it progress, just focusing more on the mom and the baby, how they doing, explaining things clearly and kindly, and giving her respectful communication and care so she can make an informed decision if she even wants an exam or not. It's her choice. This is an intimate, invasive procedure, a vaginal exam, and it's just assumed that everybody going into labor, we're just gonna check out and see how dilated you are. That is, very sensitive for a lot of women to have that, right? So I've learned over the years. I mean, it's been over 20 years and thousands of babies that the vast majority of time I can see what's going on without me having to stick my fingers inside a woman's vagina. That's an invasive procedure. If I have to, it can be done. I could tell them, we could tell the mom, this is what's going on. This is what I'm concerned about. This is what I think we need to do. Here are the pros and the cons. And she has the power to say, I want this, I don't want this. And if she wants this, with kindness and compassion, I can do an exam, knowing that this is a very intimate area of her body that could be associated with previous abuse or not.
100%. I mean, just looking at. I mean, you've listed quite a few things as well. So listeners going through it, and it's gone through quite a few things. But just to say, just a little list here of what is birth trauma, and they say some of the triggers of birth trauma include having an unwanted intervention, having an emergency cesarean section, either under epidural or general anaesthetic, having an epitocin.
Pitocin? Oh, a episiotomy. Yeah, a episiotomy is they just routinely cut. Right. They don't let the woman stretch on her own. They just routinely cut. That's one of the most harmful procedures, to cut from the vaginal opening almost towards the rectum. The perineum. Is that what they call it? Yeah, episiotomy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the other one was finding that your baby is in distress during labour or birth. You or your baby's life come under threat during labour or birth, feeling out of control, experiencing extreme pain, enduring a long labour or short dramatic one, or poor postnatal care. And then they said recognising the signs of birth trauma, like you mentioned before, a response of intense fear, helplessness or horror to the experience of childbirth, reoccurrent thoughts, flashbacks and nightmares about the experience, feelings of pain when reminded of the birth, either avoiding talking about the experience altogether or becoming obsessed with talking about it, difficulty sleeping and concentrating, feelings of anger, irritability and extreme caution, blaming your partner or even the baby for putting you through the trauma. I mean, a lot of those things, as you mentioned, that they can be, obviously some of them are solely towards the birth, but they're like anything. I mean, if people avoiding talking about experiences or becoming obsessed with talking about it, that's one that can go for anything, right? So they're I mean, because it's birth, people think, you shouldn't. It's a miraculous thing, a bit of life. But for a lady, it can be quite traumatic. So those things are definite lookout points that people should try.
But it doesn't have to be, right? It can be beautiful. It can be empowering. It's hard, but that doesn't. We need to have sensitivity to the mother and the baby's psychological experience of the birth process.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, and it was just, so when we were talking about this, is what we talked about last time. I was just talking about people might have gone through it before. Maybe they've had the first birth, and it was like that. As Anne said, listen to the first interview. It doesn't have to be that way. And we're going to talk about things, and we talked about things that you can do, etc. But if it was that way for you, don't feel like you're a bad person or anything. This is normal. So next time you give birth or you're pregnant, you can do things differently and have a little look into Anne and her site www.homesweethomebirth.com and listen to the interviews, and you can go through it. But you said baby gets trauma as well. Explain.
Oh my gosh. By this? Yeah, this like decades of scientific research in embryology, neurology, and psychology are all documenting that babies are born fully conscious, and they're actually in the womb conscious and will form memories and develop responses to adapt to their environment. So we all know right now that drugs affect the baby, alcohol affects the baby, nicotine goes to the baby, poor nutrition, right? But an acute emotional trauma and stress have anything that's traumatic for the mom, what the mom eats, drinks, breathes, thinks, feels, right? The same stress hormones of that trauma are going to go to the baby. So if mommy's happy, baby's happy. If mom is totally stressed out, that's going to go to the baby. And so what's interesting is the way, I'm just talking about routine medical procedures, thinking from a baby's point of view. If we would just be sensitive to their their brain is developing, their learning capacity is developing, but they are exquisitely sensitive, and so just think, if a baby is having like what we call 24-hour womb service, heart to heart, it's dark, it's peaceful in the womb, right? Yeah. The baby has nothing to worry about. So just think, how is it for the baby? Routine medical procedures, right? The baby comes out, the cord's cut right away. So baby is like severed from a third of its blood supply, which is actually equivalent to a hemorrhage, but it's unseen because it's backed up in the cord, right? The baby is suctioned. They stick a tube down the baby's respiratory, airway to suction out fluids. There's bright lights, there's noise, there's sort of a rush. Babies could, even before that, they might have an electronic monitor plugged into their scalp. They were, mom's given antibiotics or Pitocin or narcotics. Baby pulled out by forceps or vacuum. I mean, these affect the baby, and the baby's put in an isolette away from the mother, and all these things are being done to the baby, and this is an exquisitely, a very sensitive human being, and especially now, like if baby ends up in the intensive care unit, just think of like all the procedures that are done there, and even just routine procedures for the baby. So they're now, I would say about 80% of children with developmental delays and like ADHD and ADD and any kind of sensory process disorder, autism, have a history of birth trauma. Really? And and it's just like this is such a crucial time in the baby's development that really affects the baby, short and long term. The hope is there's healing, but I'm just saying that we need to really be sensitive to the baby's experience of birth because it just is so it's such a sensitive time, the development of their nervous system, and they do have memory. And in my trauma work, like when I, as a Clarity Breathwork practitioner, when we take women, or I take human beings through the process, memories of their birth come up. So it's there. It's just nonverbal. Really? Yeah. Come up and come out. Yeah.
What is? So you mentioned there about the umbilical cord being cut straight away. How long, if you for example, with someone, how long before you cut the umbilical cord?
Well, we just look at the history, right? So animals don't cut the cord. Human beings did not cut the cord until the invention of the obstetrician or when birth was moved to the hospital, let's say, even in the 1900s, right? Before that, why did it become a medical intervention to disturb this process of cutting the cord? Because a third of the blood of the babies backs up into the placenta during pushing, and that needs to return to the baby. It's blood volume and oxygen and stem cells and iron. There's so many, essential components to life in the short term and in the long term health of that baby, so that when the baby is born and needs to start using its lungs, and the heart it was shunting blood away from the lungs in the womb. Now it has to send blood to the lungs, and then the lungs start breathing for the baby instead of the cord. And all of this is happening, this huge transition of baby becoming an independent person as opposed to a fetus, while the cord blood is going in. So I don't, most out of hospital midwives, we do not cut cords until, when all is well, until the placenta is born. Once the placenta is born, or at least wait till the cord stops pulsing the blood into the baby. Really? So some of the obstetrical, the medical obstetrical communities are now, acknowledging the evidence and, saying, oh, at least wait 90 seconds. Well, I think we need to wait a bit more. Like, why interfere? It worked well. It's been, we wouldn't have survived as a species if it didn't, right? So why interfere? First, do no harm is the first that's part of the Hippocratic Oath, at least in the United States, when doctors in training become, graduate and become physicians. First, do no harm. So,
yeah, I mean, that seems to have been forgotten by most doctors out there, but
well, not all, but
not
yeah,
all, yeah.
Yeah,
I just mean,
there's a lot of pressures on doctors as well. But
yeah.
I'm just saying, the evidence is just mounting about just leaving the cord, alone and not cutting it. They're even doing, providers who are more up on the evidence are even allowing what they call delayed optimal cord clamping during a cesarean birth. So that's something that I think all moms, and families should add to their birth plan, is that they, want to make sure that the baby gets the cord blood. People want to donate cord blood, right? Yeah. It's this new area of research about the benefits of cord blood. Who should have the cord blood? The baby should have the cord blood, right? If you want to donate a little at the end, if baby's doing well, but really it's the baby is the most important recipient of the cord blood.
100%, yeah. So if I were to say, what can women do to avoid having birth trauma?
Well, I think that's huge. What they can do is, I think that the most ideal sense is prepare themselves for a natural childbirth, when all is well, and either find a physician or a midwife who is, they're more likely to be in line with doing what they can to support a natural, childbirth, minimal interventions. And making sure that, whoever your provider is in alignment with you and your desire to have a natural, beautiful, gentle childbirth, in sensitivity to and doing, this is all I do. My course and my online course, the homesweethomebirth.com/love your birth, is to help people, empower them with information and tools so that they can give birth with minimal intervention, and that they can love their experience. Yeah. And babies are brought into the world just peacefully and gently. The lights they can be dim. It's just, and there's celebration and there's warmth and there's humanity and there's love in the room. Babies put cords not clamped, babies put right onto mom. And it's just this peaceful, beautiful part of life, right? Yeah. And so that's huge, is to decide, is your birth setting and is your provider conducive to a minimal intervention, only if, absolutely necessary, or natural childbirth. And then preparing yourself. I have a whole list, aside from my course, I have a whole list of books about how to prepare for natural childbirth, not just to wing it. Because today, I think, years ago, when we were surrounded by birth, we helped our mothers or our sisters or nieces. Women were helping women in the communities when we lived in tribes and communities around the world. Today, women are not seeing birth as often as that, right? So they haven't seen birth at all. And there's a lot of fear out there. And, when birth was moved to the hospital. So I think, especially in today's modern world, there's a lot of lack, women don't have the confidence they used to have in giving birth, and they're afraid.
What you just said there, I think, is so right. Like, people generally fear what they don't know. So the more research you can do, the more you can get around it, the better you're going to be, because you'll be like, when things crop, the same as I get people with my thing, they've got an issue and they think, I think I know enough, but I just can't put it in order. I'm like, that's why you need a coach, or because it's just like with your program, I'm sure you put it all out and you've got everything. There's so much information out there and misinformation. It's about getting it down for people so you can move them through a program, but also just making them familiar with things, because there's, as you say, so much misinformation out there as well about everything. It's making them familiar with what's true, and then so when things do crop up, they know that it's not something that is out of the blue and something they should be worried about. That's just the way the body works. That's just the way they react. So
just retrusting, reclaiming, trust in the process. Like if you on homesweethomebirth.com/gift, I have a whole I have almost about 170 resources of movies and books to empower, the woman and her partner with this information, that pick and choose the different books. But there's so much information out there just to boost your confidence, to help you embrace this and know that you can do it and create a beautiful birth of your dreams. And I don't have how can I say, when women are supported in this sort of, I want to say, quote, home birth model of care, because you can have that in the hospital too. You can have that in a birthing center. It's just respectful, compassionate, kind care that restores the power and responsibility to the mother. And when birth is supported in that way, when it just is allowed to happen beautifully, normally, and naturally, we don't have, and she feels loved, she feels safe, she feels secure. We're just not seeing birth trauma.
Yeah, 100%.
For moms or babies.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's the whole experience. It's the place, it's the knowledge, it's the feeling, it's everything. And as I said before, guys, listen to the first interview we did with Anne and go on to www.homesweethomebirth.com for lots of /gift as well for the free gifts that she's got there. It's really eye opening. So, and just moving on, because we want to talk about, it's similar, it's all linked together. We want to talk about, you mentioned before to me about how you've been able to permanently heal from the stress and the trauma, and how you're living in high vibration despite, as you said, the challenges that you've gone through. Because you mentioned to me that you've endured some abuse at childhood.
Right.
So how have you done that, and what was that like at childhood, the abuse, what you went through, and what happened?
Well, I, and it's pretty a lot of what I went through in childhood, I just kind of buried and repressed. I went through a lot of childhood abuse, right? And as what does a child do other than, I just buried and denied and got myself busy in things like outside my house, which, could have been, I was very active physically I was athletic. I did I was a dancer, still am. And, just got very busy in other things, in my work, in my school, in my guitar playing or whatever. And I just kind of buried, repressed. And I didn't know any other way. Right. But what I do know is I entered adulthood very wounded, as does anybody who is a victim of, any sort of abuse in childhood. So, after a while of having various hits as an adult, severe illness in the family and other sorts of my own two birth traumas. After a while, sort of, I knew inside something was wrong with me, but I didn't know what it was. And I felt very, it was almost, it got to the point where it was like torture to live in my body, and I I went to psychiatrists. They just wanted, to medicate me. I tried medication, nothing, that didn't work. I had tried, I've been very into holistic modalities. I've tried homeopathic remedies and herbs and acupuncture and hypnotherapy and all sorts of holistic therapies. And nothing was really helpful. I mean, I got, yoga and meditation helped a little bit, but, what really helped was, when I really hit rock bottom. And that, even though that was rock bottom, I knew I needed to just take care of this. So I went to a holistic psychiatrist who said, you have chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. She doesn't know why any other person, missed this, and I was already a midwife at the time, but I just didn't put it together.
About this time, man?
Must have been about 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
And so, I just, I knew because the symptoms are very physical. Yeah. And I knew that, what depression was. I knew what anxiety was. This wasn't that, having chronic post-traumatic stress. So, and I was hearing from women all the time who have, 1 in 3 women are victims of abuse, sexual abuse, and then even, unreported, probably more, and, all sorts of childhood traumas. And I just became very passionate in how I can help them, and all, and then I had to midwife myself when I really hit rock bottom. So the doctor, when she diagnosed me, I was so happy, because then I knew what I had, and now I can heal it. And she's the one that introduced to me that the way to heal trauma is not through medication. Trauma is trapped energy in the body. It's stored there's memory cells all over the body, and it's stored as trapped energy in the body. And the way to heal it, like cutting edge research, is through somatic. It's through the body, not through therapy, not through talk therapy. I mean, that can be as an adjunct, but it's really through the body. So she told me about, it's called Organic Intelligence. They have a website, and Somatic Experience, and to reset the nervous system, and ways of releasing this trapped energy in the body. So at the same time, I went with she spent hours with me, this psychiatrist. She was amazing. I went with a friend of mine to a yoga retreat in Costa Rica, where there was a woman who was doing rebirthing sessions, and I was so into mind body, and I just hadn't heard of rebirthing yet. And the women in the retreat were just raving about this. Like they don't know what happened, but they feel like they've released tons of trapped pain energy, and it was the most transformative experience of their life, and I must try it. So of course, I had to try it. And so what this woman did was she led me through. We talked a little bit, but then she led me through it's like a continuous conscious connective breathing for at least an hour. And I felt huge. I don't know how to describe it other than thousands and thousands and thousands of energy, like coming up in my body. And she worked with me, and then it just kind of shook off. So the breath work is, I knew, like, I thought she gave me a drug. It was so powerful. Like, it was such an out of body experience, such a powerful experience. And she says, no, this is rebirthing. This is breath work. So I knew I had to do more. So she set me up with someone in my area who I worked with. And then I went to workshops. And the biggest healing was when I immersed myself for a full month in one of these clarity breathwork workshops. And I literally felt that billions and billions of bricks of pounds or I don't know, kilo, however you want to, kilo, what do you say? What's weight in?
Yeah, pounds or kilos now.
Pounds or kilos. Yeah. I was like carrying around in my body, just left me forever. In clarity breathwork, we work very much every day on, we start from the earliest time in the womb and the birthing and going into childhood, mother, father, all the way up to adult life. And how is this work? So people ask me how does this work? So it's a process of using the 100% of your lung capacity. Right. And oxygen is like the fuel of every cell of the body for the organs. So if
we need, right?
So normal, like human beings, like on average, breathe about 20 to 30% of their lung capacity on an everyday basis. So this is a process in which we're inviting in 100% as much as possible of oxygen for at least an hour. And also the lungs is the main source of detox. So that's just like on a physical level. And when there's a lot of oxygen in the body, it changes the pH, and it can cause, healing hormones to come out. But it works on a much deeper level.
Is it similar? I mean, because most people are like chest breathing, we expect belly breathing and breathing right. Is it similar to some of the principles you get in Tai Chi and Qigong?
Well, it's not. Yeah, so I don't know the breathing of Qigong. I've never. I'm sorry, Tai Chi. But I'm, as a yoga teacher, I'm very aware of the power of pranayama, which is the power of breath to activate relaxation, deep relaxation in the body. It can create heat. It can create coolness. It can create states of ecstasy. So we use the breath in yoga. So the breath has definitely a lot of, power in different, in activating certain states in the body.
Powerful, yeah.
Yes. So this is not a yoga breath, though. The mouth is wide open, and it's a full breath into the heart, like into the chest, using the full lung capacity, and no pause between the inhale and the exhale. And it's not hyperventilating. It's not like fast, but it's deep, and the flow is continuous. And what that does is that opens the subconscious. It's amazing how it does this, and it kind of puts the body in a subconscious state. So any trapped emotional energy that was not processed in the past comes up to process and clear. Just kind of like animal. It gets our thoughts out of the way. So like an animal, we can just shake it off. And it's fascinating, the physical sensations that can come up. And sometimes, people can even have a spiritual experience, like sort of transcendent experience. And spiritual means different things to different people, but I would just say that people have had visions doing this work. They have felt sort of incredible clarity or developed insights or communication with people or spiritual forces. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is that like even the biblical religions, if you they talk about when God, if you believe in God, put life into Adam and Eve, he put breath into Adam and Eve, and they became alive. And even if that's not what your belief system, the East, right? Like all the yogic philosophy, prana is considered really the life force. It's like spirit. It's the infinite intelligence around. So if you are bringing this in 100% into your body, I mean, just think of the power of that healing tool, right? But whatever it is, you don't even have to know how it works, because it saved my life. It works. And I became so passionate about it, and I was witnessing huge healing in like, there must have been 40 or 50 people in the room, and they have Bhakti Fest and Shakti Fest. They have all sorts of healing fests, where there could be 400 or 500 people breathing. And in Europe, I know it's much more common than in the United States, where they have like breath studios, kind of as prevalent as yoga studios, where people come and breathe, because there's stress, and we're human. So sometimes we go through life and there's inner stress, or we have baggage, right? Yeah. And so it's like a regular practice. It's become, to just go and breathe, and go about your life. And so you can breathe in private groups, private sessions, and you can have group sessions, and both can be very powerful. And so I became trained in it, and not only, it healed all my traumas, my birth trauma, my traumas from years and years of abuse as a child. And, and I use this as a tool for women in my practice. And, I lead groups as well. And there's these Skype sessions, but there's breath workers really all over the world now. It's an amazing organization. And practice, a very powerful modality that's natural, yep. Totally natural.
Can you give us a little example
on the podcast? Yeah. So
we'll do it. I mean, I'll do it.
You're going to do it right now.
Everyone listening. Let's have a little example. If you want to follow Anne's lead, go for it.
To really, the session. Like even a session is an hour, right?
Yeah, I know we're not going to get like the full hour or anything like that, but I just mean like this is like a small example. I know we're not going to get the full benefits, and it's not going to be, but it's just interesting to know sort of how you'd go about it.
So we kind of lay down in a very comfortable position. Pregnant women tend to need to be propped up. I use a bolster, but most people lie flat on their back. They can have a pillow, like Shavasana, like the yoga Shavasana, like the corpse pose, where you're just lying flat on your back. And we get into a very I always have a little bit of a meditation beforehand, so people can get relaxed. and a pillow under the knees if necessary, and the head, right? And the inhale is like a gasp, right? It's like deep into the back of the throat, and exhale is sort of just relaxed by itself. It's not a yoga breath. It's not a controlled breath. So it's like fogging a mirror would be the exhale. So it's and it's continuous. And so the gusto, the gusto, the emphasis is on that inhale. And so if you want to think of ratio, so maybe like a 3 to 4 to 1, like I wouldn't get focused on the counting, but the inhale, would be maybe to a count of 3 or 4, and then just a relaxed exhale, and then the inhale again. And so there's no pause. You understand? And so if a person is doing that, well, actually, in London, you have the breathguru.com, which he does, Alan Dolan does transformational breath. He actually has an app that you can get on your iPhone, Breath Guru, where he explains it very well. But I would definitely, like, if anybody's new to this, there's so many places in Europe and in the United States where you can find a rebirther or a breath worker, a clarity breath work is what I do.
And do you do this? I mean, do you do this with people before pregnancy as well? I most of the people actually I do. You could do before pregnancy. You can do after pregnancy. Like I have so many women and men that I'm working with, whether they're going through any kind of upsetting, any kind of emotional upset, emotional pain. It's just energy, right? That is stored in our body. So it doesn't really matter what the pain or trauma is, and you don't have to go delving into it. That's what's amazing. This cuts years of therapy and psychoanalysis and really can heal without medication. That's what's amazing about it. Yeah, that is key.
So there's I just want to give you some here. If you hold on one second, there's the International Foundation. I just want to make sure I give you the correct website. So that, the IBFnetwork.com is the International Breathwork Foundation. And there you can look up breath workers in your community, wherever you're living. And every time I do it, I'm assisting at a training again in Costa Rica this winter. And every time I'm there, I am amazed how many Europeans are there. Yeah. And it's vibrant. It's going on all over the world, but especially in Europe, it's very big.
Well, we've got Wim Hof. You know Wim Hof?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's very, very big into breathing, and obviously, a lot of cold therapy as well. But he's
breathing in the cold water.
Yes.
Yeah. Water actually accelerates the process.
Yeah, I'd love to get him on as well, because it's very interesting. As you said, it's all about the nervous system, what you can be in. Because generally, as well, people don't want to get into a cold shower, saying, but just because we're so much time we're in temperature controlled rooms, it just shows that your autonomic nervous system is extremely weak. But but
we can heal. The body has such capacity to heal, and what this does is it allows your nervous system to reset. Yeah. It's just powerful. It is so powerful, and the feelings. People are. Every time I breathe with anybody or lead a group, and even the people that breathe, there's an awe of how powerful this is, and safe. It's not dangerous to breathe, right?
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, I was just looking at Wim's website here. It says cold therapy, breathing, and commitment. And to be honest, if you're looking at the breathguru.com, it seems a lot of it is I suppose quite similar. And the power of breath. People always say there's 6 very fundamental parts of health. So obviously nutrition, hydration, breathing. Breathing's 100%. There's sleep, thought, and movement. And breathing is something that we've not really taken much notice of it. I mean, it's in the,
right.
until like the last 5 years, it's got very, very big. I mean, there's always been people out there, but in our
this
lives,
started in the started in the 70s by
yeah. But I mean, it's got big in the last 5 years in terms of like Wim Hof and but probably your guys,
right.
and stuff.
Right.
It's very, very important. And then obviously yoga and qigong and things like that.
Well, that's been going on for years. That's been going on for years, thousands of years.
Thousands of years, yeah. The Tao issues for thousands of years. But I mean, it's just become popular in sort of like the Western world because it's all about different. They're all healing modalities. They're all, or as you say, all about bringing energy. When you do qigong or Tai Chi, you can feel the energy in your hands. Like,
absolutely.
You can feel it, and people don't understand that. It's like there's one where you come together like a ball, and you can just feel the energy bouncing off you, and it's something that if you haven't done it before, I definitely suggest you do because it just brings you into a different mindset around how everything is actually.
And when you do it, and you really surrender to the process and do it for an hour, it's amazing the feeling of like sort of energy that was never like some sort of there's such a sense of a powerful energy in the body. And when people do have the symptoms of whether tingling or shaking or shivering or like twitching and sensations of heat and cold, I mean it's mind-boggling the relief that is felt after. You know, people can really have states of they have to go through these symptoms that are sometimes can be intense and overwhelming, but the relief after can be like I've like bliss that's unbelievable. And it left me forever. Like it's gone. I'm done with it, you know, and I want that for everybody, you know, to not have to carry around the trauma for why suffer?
Yeah, I mean, it's just because people don't know, Anne. As in, it's like, as you say, the dog or the animal, you see them shake it off. It's like, I was trying to explain it to people, I think I might have said it before on the podcast, it's like if you've got, something happens to you and it's really negative energy and you feel really bad or you're really stressed, and imagine yourself consuming a big ball of dark energy and it just going down your gut and you haven't got rid of it, it just stays in your body.
Perfect analogy. Perfect.
And that dark energy can just, everything's energy, it's very, very toxic to the body, it can cause disease and everything. So I say to people, even if it means just hitting a bag or running out or something, it's releasing that energy. And the way breathing's one way of doing it, movement is other ways of doing it. But if you don't release that energy, it's very, very toxic to the body. And I'm trying to say to you, even the most conventional of scientists will tell you everything is energy, you know. So it's huge. And as you say, the animals go and shake it off. And it's different ways of us doing it, which is brilliant.
There's another website I just want to share with the audience in terms of newborns. Birthpsychology.com has all the cutting edge research and articles by physicians and PhD, scientists about the trauma that can happen in the womb, in birth, and how to heal from it. And healing is so possible. The body knows how to heal. We just have to get the brain, the left thinking brain out of the way.
We just have to remove his modern lifestyle modalities out of the way, really. As you say, and it is the left side of the brain. It's listening to Chris Kresser the other day, and it's something that I took on board a lot, which is very true. I mean, we always talk about it. It's like genetic predisposition to disease plus modern lifestyle equals chronic illness, and that's the thing. Like people just, it's just getting out. It's just once again taking on all these things that you're mentioning here. The breathing's been around for thousands of years or whatever. These things that are looked at as woo-woo are now coming more and more mainstream because they work. And you say we need to get back in tune with us.
I think the people that come to you and the people that come to me, because I'm, a holistic midwife, and people that come to me, they're tired of suffering. Yeah. They want, they'll have some woo-woo, because it works. Well, it's
either they've got it in them, or they're at the last chance saloon. Everything else they've tried hasn't worked.
And they know that we're a mind, body, heart, and soul. That that it's modern medicine is wonderful, but it's a very and it can be life saving, right? In times, but it's really a very narrow approach to the human being, and it's not really healing most of modern chronic ailments, right?
No,
so
if I get in if I get in a car crash or something like that, or
Yeah.
I
Oh,
walk
yeah.
in there, I'm not going to go and get
Right.
a puncher.
No, you're not going to.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but
Right.
when it comes to chronic disease, I was talking to one of my
And
friends
birth.
actually the other day. His name's Andy Wilkinson. One of my really good friends. He's a surgeon, and he used to say about 50, about I suppose 10, maybe 8 years ago, he used to be really, really skeptical, and he was saying, Ryan, everything you guys are doing now, I mean, it's opened my mind. I wish I wasn't so skeptical before. And he's talking about chronic disease. He said, you guys. So I always push people in your direction now, because I just know what we do for chronic diseases doesn't work, and this is coming from someone who's been taught, and he knows. Like he's not a surgeon, he's an anaesthetist, but he helped. Obviously, his job is very, very important when it comes to anything like car crashes,
right.
surgeries, etc. And that
sure.
that is what modern medicine is phenomenal at. I mean, imagine having surgery without an anaesthetic.
Oh
terrible,
gosh,
right? Yeah.
No! Holistic care includes modern medicine, but the future of healing and health is integrative.
Yeah,
is using all the modalities
100%.
that work.
But using them when they're but for things like that, of course you need them. But otherwise, there's a million and one things that we can do when it comes to chronic illness, other than medication or surgery and things like that. But so we've touched on quite a bit there, and when it comes to the breathing and so you say it's clarity breathwork. Any tips for people out there?
For breathing or for
just for if someone wants to get into it, what would be the best way?
Yeah, so I would say go on that the website that I just gave. Did you
I took down IB Network and breatheguru.com and birthpsychology.com.
Right. So in terms of if you're human and you have lungs, that usually means that human beings have baggage. We have baggage. I have seen couples like come into the breathwork sessions, like the group sessions, and the partner is just coming with his wife that has to heal all this trauma, right? And they're breathing in a group, right? And he's shaking like a leaf, and he was fine, like nothing's the matter with me. Well, really, if you're human, we all have baggage, and we all have sometimes, upsets and stress in the body from just being in life. And this is just a very powerful, simple modality that you can use regularly. And I also use dance. I love how you say to shake it off, to dance it off. In my workshops and in Clarity Breathwork workshops, we use dance a lot. Cultures around the world, feel and express and vocalize emotions from joy to anger to grief in community, right? So cultures around the world dance and vocalize to express and feel. So do toddlers, right? When a toddler is excited, the whole room, everybody knows they're jumping and singing and skipping and moving, right? Of their joy. But if a toddler is sad or angry, you're going to see a big flipping wild temper tantrum, right? Yeah. They don't have shame. They're being authentic and innocent in moving the energy, and feeling the energy and screaming and roaring and pounding and kicking or whatever they need to do. And then they get up and they go about their life. I don't know when it was that we were told to shut down, turn off, tune out, disembody, disconnect. So I use. Yeah. So I tell everyone, everyone, you can take every day, you can play 3 songs to your, in the bathroom and dance in the mirror or wherever you are, a song that's, like a grief song. I like Adele a million years ago, but it could be any song that elicits grief. If you're feeling grief and you let it move your body, you just move to the words, and sob and moan. And then there's, an angry song, a song that elicits anger. There's tons of those out there. And then like an upbeat turn-on song, and turning on feeling good is. But I have a whole playlist. But it's just a great way. It's a tool that you could use right now to sort of feel and embody and move your emotion, and then realize that you could play an upbeat song that it could be sexy, it could be sensual, or it could just be upbeat and happy sort of, and you can create joy just by moving and movement. We've done it all over the world, since the beginning of time, and you did it as a baby. as a little boy or a little girl.
100%. And also with that, it's amazing. So it's one of those things where you can listen to a song and it can take you straight back to a fun time or a sad time, because as we know from doing work,
Touches the soul.
Yeah, it's also doing work for the brain. It's like what gets fired together gets wired together. So in terms of what we put things together, you hear a sad song, it can bring you straight back to an ex-girlfriend or a bad time, or you can hear a happy song, it can take you straight back to a great holiday or to a birthday party or something like that. You know, it's just one of those things. So 100%, I really like that that bit of that tip there.
And you might need one or two. You know, like if you're really feeling angry, you might need a few angry songs, right? But don't stay in the muck. Then turn it on to like an upbeat, song. Good, Flo Rida's Good Feeling, or Drop It Low, or, do a hip hop, or Feeling Good, Suavemente, if you're feeling the Latin. There's so many songs that are just, or it could be like sort of like a tribal, African dance. Shake, move, there's Din Dada is a good one, but there's just don't stay in the muck. Like feel it, move it, and then turn it on.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. And thank you very much for that. We covered quite a bit there. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think we covered a lot.
Yeah. Anything
else
if anyone
you'd like
to add?
Oh, just the body, the body has a huge capacity to heal. And I'm telling you, if I came from the depths of despair of having the trauma that I went through and healed from it and can now help others find that healing for themselves, you can too. Anyone can. Healing is so possible,
Awesome, man. Thank you very much for that. So that's Anne Margolis, ladies and gentlemen. And as you said, find her at www.homesweethomebirth.com. As well as, or if you put /gift, you can get a little gift that she's got for everyone. But otherwise, guys, any questions around that, give us a shout and I'll send them over to Anne. But otherwise, thank you very much for that, Anne. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Always a pleasure, Ryan.
And I'll see you, I'll speak to you very soon.
Yes.
Cool.
I'm going to interview you on my Facebook Live.
Yeah, we are going to do a little Facebook Live, which should be fun. And I'll tell the audience about that anyway, because we can save that and we can send it out as well, which would be
awesome.
Great. Okay, Anne, have a good day and I'll speak to you soon.
Great. Thank you. You too. Bye.
So guys, that was episode 42 of Anne Margolis. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It was really, really important, I think, to get that information out. And Anne, as always, is a brilliant guest, and I'm actually looking forward to being on her show and going live with her and answering all the questions. But that's it for today, guys. As always, this show is sponsored by www.reviveyourself.co, and you're heading over there to find all the articles and find out how you can work with us if you've got a chronic issue. You've also got our free 4-day Revive Yourself mini course over there. Go over our mini course. Anyway, with any chronic issues, it's going to be huge for you. And we're going to be aiming to be more on the gut health. I mean, everything is related to gut health anyway, but we're going to be hitting gut health hard because I think it's such an issue today. More and more people always ring me up about their gut issues, skin issues, and all of it is related to the gut. So we'll be concentrating a lot on that. So as always, guys, as I said before, you can find us on Instagram at revive_yourself, or you can find us on Facebook at Facebook/Revive Natural Health. Otherwise, guys, that's it for this episode. I'll see you soon. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll speak to you soon.
If you're struggling with gut issues, such as gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, and want to finally be able to eat the foods you love without the crippling after effects, then don't forget to head over to reviveyourself.co and pick up your free copy of The Healing Health Paradigm today.